Welcome back to Forgotten Working Class Podcast. I am Tiffany.
I'm John.
Today we have with us Lyle Barnett, professional race car driver. Thank you for being here with us today.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Where are you calling from?
So I am at my place of business. My dad and I own a beadlot conversion company. So we take your standard drag racing wheels and convert them to beadlot. For those of you that don't know what that is, it's just a piece we weld to the wheel, allows you to clamp the bead of the tire in these high horsepower cars. It allows you to accelerate down the racetrack without spinning the tire or the wheel, inside the tire. So we do beadlot conversions, and we have a general machine shop that we can kind of do whatever, but primarily we do beadlot conversions.
That's awesome.
Very cool. Where are you based out of?
So we're in North Carolina. If you look at North Carolina on a map, we're at kind of the geographical center. I grew up here. I moved to Charlotte to go to school. I met my now wife. We lived just outside of Charlotte for 10 years. I just recently moved back. We have a 17-month-old. And for those of you who have kids, both a blessing and a curse, I'm right in the middle of haven't decided. No, he's awesome. But child care is number one, expensive and hard to come by good child care. And so I've got plenty of help here in my family. And we decided it was best for us to move back, both for that and so that my dad and I could continue running this business. And it's worked out well. So North Carolina is where I call home.
That's awesome. Yeah, we have 2 kids. Childcare is definitely hard to come by. Trusting those with your babies.
Yep. And the ones that are worth taking them to know what they're worth, and that's a lot.
Absolutely. So what's the name of your business?
So it's MacFab.
Okay.
That's for machining and fabrication. Again, we've got a complete machine shop. We can machine pretty much anything, and not just metal. You know, we've got some 3D printing stuff. We do some plastic work and whatnot. But MacFab Performance is our website, macfabperformance.com. You can kind of see what we do there.
Very cool. Lyle, how old are you?
So I'm 32. Will be 33 the day after Christmas. Worst birthday ever. But right on the verge, 33.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, I'm 34 and John's 35.
Yep.
So we're finally at the good ages where we're hopefully enjoying life.
Yeah. Oh, then you start I've always been active and an athlete to some degree. And, and I was out in the yard the other day and I picked up a rock and I was like, my son's standing there and I'm like, watch him, I'll throw it in the pond. And I got about right here and it felt like my arm was going to fall off my
My back is currently broken right now.
33.
Yeah. So you're a professional racer. How old were you when you got into that?
So I got into racing of some sort at a young age. Even though I didn't compete in it consistently, I enjoyed motocross style racing on 4-wheelers and whatnot. And my best friend growing up, his dad was a very successful round track racer, raced late models in the 70s and 80s. And that's what he went on to do and what I thought I wanted to do. So at 15, my dad and I were headed to buy a late model stock truck. And my dad and my grandfather grew up drag racing. And though I had never really been involved in the junior dragster ranks, I never did any of that. We always watched it on Sundays. And, and I was always a John Force and a Greg Anderson fan. And but because my best friend round track raced, I kind of thought that's what I wanted to do. I came home from football practice on a Thursday, and my dad's like, what do you think about drag racing instead? And at that time, I'm 15 years old, full of piss and vinegar, and, and I'm like, man, I don't care if it's high horsepower and it's loud, the chicks are going to dig it.
It's all the fun stuff.
Right. So that's what we decided to do. That Saturday, instead of going to pick up a late model stock truck, we went and bought a 4th gen Camaro with a 468 bucket, and I started bracket racing at 15. Bracket raced for a couple years, but our close group around here everybody heads up raced, and I knew that's what we wanted to do. First one to the finish line, dial in. And there's nothing wrong with bracket racing. If it wasn't for bracket racing, drag racing wouldn't exist today. But we started heads up racing when I was 17, and been doing it ever since at some level. And I've just kind of moved up as the years have gone. Locally, X275, which is a form of drag radial racing. I think we were pretty successful. We ran really well, and we kept stepping up, and and in 2015 we had stepped up into Radial versus the World, and and we're at the peak or the pinnacle of what drag radial racing had to offer and still has to offer today. Radial versus the World is the fastest drag radial class there is, but 2015 had a slightly different plan for, and that's kind of when things changed forever for me. It changed my life and why I'm here today. So that was kind of, I guess, stopped there for a little while, but I've continued on since then to be very successful and now do it for a living, and it's been great. But 2015 changed the course for me for sure.
Yeah. And you are such an inspiration. I mean, being that you've gone back to it and everything. How old were you in 2015?
24.
Okay.
20.
Wow. You want to go ahead and get into that a little bit?
Fun.
So you had an accident?
Yeah. So, I had kind of gone about it the right way. I feel like I'd kind of moved up through the ranks as far as speed is concerned in this form of racing that we do, and Radial versus the World was really kind of a jump, but the next step for us as a team, and that's what we had decided to do, and had a really nice. My dad invested a ton of money in with a partner, and had really bought a nice car, something that could have competed and ran at the front in 2015. And we had spent that year working through new car blues and bugs and, just all the things that come with building a new car. You don't just, today at least, or then at least, you didn't just build a new car and plug a tune up in it and go to the racetrack and start running at the front. It was a lot of testing and a lot of trying new things and breaking parts. And, me as a driver, figuring out, learning how to drive, all these things. And we had made some strides in the right direction and went to the biggest race of the year, and everybody's pumped up, and it's a night session, and we're about to go as fast as we've ever gone, and all things were good until they weren't. We had just a freak accident. The way that we run a Hemi, a Chrysler Hemi based engine, twin turbos on that, alcohol as fuel. Then that thing made over 4,000 horsepower. Capable of going to over 200 in the 8th mile. Today, that would equate to 250 in the quarter mile, if any of you speak quarter mile terms.
That's fast.
But fast, really fast. And I was on my way to probably 190 some mile an hour run, 4 seconds in the 8th mile. And we just had a freak accident, something that more than likely, I've learned to never say never, but more than likely will never happen again. A perfect storm just resulted in, the worst day of my life. At approximately in a 660-foot run, which is an 8th mile, at probably 500 feet, we had an electronics failure in the car, and it caused an engine failure, essentially. The engine blew up. It set the entire inside of the race car on fire immediately. It came through the firewall, so kind of to my right at my feet, through the firewall in a tube about as big as a volleyball is what I remember, and it hit me right in the face. Just fire, nothing hard, just fire. And for 28 seconds, I was on fire inside that race car and could not get out because I was at speed. I went through the traps at 175, I think. Nosed into the wall pretty soon after that and lost all brakes. So I was just along for the ride for nearly 30 seconds, and you think about that. Well, that's not really that long, but if you
That's long.
go grab yourself a lighter,
Yeah. That's a long time.
you're in bad shape, and it really did a number on me, man. It was somewhere around 20% of my body. I mean, you can see my hands. That's where my Velcro strap was on my glove there. It burnt my hands, my feet, my face, my lungs, and then some random spots just where I had some contact burns up against the roll cage and things like that. But it was 2 months in ICU, ventilator. I was trached, it was skin grafts. In total, I had somewhere between 25 and 30 grafting surgeries, just grafts on grafts. That was throughout the entire, the year after that it takes to heal from these things. They operated on my eyes, uh, 3 times on I can't tell, 3 times on this one, twice on this one. I had to rebuild my eyelids with skin from my neck. Um, Stem cell treatments and laser treatments, you name it. But in grand total, I had 20 surgeries that resulted in being put under in some kind of operation regarding skin grafts or something of that nature.
You did laser on your face?
I did laser everywhere, but very concentrated on my face. Probably hard to see on the camera, but these ridges where the graft is laid over my, what was left. There's these big ridges, and they knock those down on my
Yeah.
face. The discoloration on my face is normal.
There we go.
The discoloration in my face is normal for somebody who does not choose to wear sunscreen on their face anytime they step outside. I just don't care. Like my wife stayed with me and ended up marrying me after the fact, so she obviously doesn't care either. Um, and I don't have eyebrows, right? But those things just don't matter to me. So once I was tired of being put under and just was okay with the way I looked, I stopped all that. It just doesn't matter. I'm still here. That's what really matters. And you either take me for the way I look or don't, and I don't care either way.
I feel like you're checking out his beard. Are you checking out his beard?
Oh, his beard's perfect.
John loves beards.
Well, that's because mine grows in real white trash like, and then after being burned, it like comes down to here now. So
If you choose to shave your beard, then the weight of manhood is too much for you to bear. Wear it proud. I don't give a dang what you got. But my beard is a cool part of my recovery. So I had a beard maybe a little shorter than yours at the time of my accident. And your beard hair is different from the hair on your head and anywhere else on your body for that matter. It's very tough. That's why when, if he shaves freshly and you go to kiss her, it feels very rough, right? Well, it's different. It's coarse, and it actually saved the bottom portion of my face. They used stem cells on my entire face, and they had flown doctors in from around the country to look at what they had done. Like, oh, this is the deepest third degree we've ever tried with stem cells, and it looks like it's going to work. Well, it worked everywhere, but that portion in the middle you can see where they ended up having to graft, which they took from my scalp. And you can't even tell that because they took it above the hair follicle, and my hair grew back, and it was good enough to cover the burnt part of my face. But they used stem cells down here, and it regenerated what was already there, which was beard hair. And I had a fairly thick beard before, but I'm telling you right now, you can stick. I mean, here's a pencil. We just hang on to that right there. Like, it's as coarse and as thick as it's ever been. And part of that
That's
is
incredible.
because of the stem cells.
yeah, that's crazy that they did stem cells.
Were they from your own body or just donor cells?
And I good time. Um, those for women who they ask, do you want you want us to keep your stem cells or not? It's always good. For people like me and then that are in the burn unit and whatnot, they can use those. And now they have stem cell guns that they can like shoot the stem cell. They just lathered it on me with a popsicle stick, but they can literally have these guns now that can like shoot it and penetrate it into your skin, and it's better for regeneration. All this crazy stuff. The burn technology and what they can do to to heal people like you and I.
That's wild.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I didn't have stem cells.
Which hospital were you treated at?
JMS Burn Center at the Doctors Hospital in Augusta, Georgia.
In Georgia. Okay.
Crash occurred in Valdosta, Georgia. I was transported by ambulance to the Valdosta Hospital local there, and then airlifted from Valdosta to Augusta. And we have a great burn center, a couple here in North Carolina, one in Chapel Hill and one in Winston-Salem at Baptist. And that's where my dad wanted to go. That's the only burn center we've ever known. Chapel Hill's the one you go to, right? You know, and the pilots finally turned to my dad and they're like, listen, sir, one, we're taking him to the best burn center in the country, and two, your son doesn't have time to get to Chapel Hill. You know, we were working with minutes, there we were touch and go for a minute. But so, a lot of cool things they did, the way that they took skin from my neck and made eyelids, and, they would cut my eyelid in half and add some skin and let that heal. And then they would cut it again and add some more skin, and I mean, I have eyelids, which you obviously have to have. I could really use another surgery or two probably on my eyes, but they don't give me too much trouble. And I'm just, you probably know, I don't know how often you were put under, but it just got to the point where I was just tired of that. It's like,
it gets old.
here we go again, and with the eyes in particular, not to get too deep, there's one tendon that controls your eyelid, and it's very small. And if they cut it or nick it or screw up, there's no fixing it. Like, you just have a non-functioning eyelid. And I think I'm pretty blessed to be where I am today. And I've just told them, like, I'm good. If we get to a point,
Yeah.
I'm done.
if my eyesight depends on this surgery, we can talk. But for now, we're not even going to talk about it. I'm done. I'll see you later.
Yeah. Maybe in 20 years, reconsider that one.
Right.
Yeah. It's wild.
So how long after all this did you go back to racing?
So my wreck was in September. I was back home in December. I went back to the same racetrack I had the crash at in February. So September, October, November, December, January. So roughly 4 or 5 months. I did not race. I was still in compression gloves and didn't have my full vision, and really couldn't be in the sun then. Like, I had to have sunscreen on if I sat by a window that the sun was coming through at that time. But I went back. We took our motor home, and I didn't spend a whole lot of time outside during the day, but I went back there and thanked the people who had supported me along the way, because I got lots of support, lots of prayers, donations, you name it. And then in June of that year, so less than a year, I made a couple passes in a slower bracket car. October of that next year, which was just a little over a year from crash, I made my first passes back in a fast radial car, a 3,000-ish horsepower car. In February of the next year, so a year and a half roughly, we'll call it, from date of crash, I went back to the same racetrack that I crashed at, raced my first race. We won the race and broke the world record in the same week. So,
Absolutely incredible.
very full circle moment, for all of us, right? Somewhere I'd nearly lost my life, and and a lot of my family thought they'd watch me go down the racetrack for the last time, and we come back there for my first race back and win and set the world record. So it was pretty cool, to kind of end that like slamming the book closed, like, all right, we've got that out of the way. Let's go back and do it like we used to.
Was your now wife there when that happened?
She was not at the racetrack. I can't remember then. Back then she was a night shift nurse, and it just didn't work out that she could be there that weekend. But they were watching on the live feed, and it was live streamed back then. And I called her as soon as I got out of the car at the top end. So, but we were obviously still together then. We were not married at the time. We were still dating then, but she was still with me at the time. Yes.
Crazy.
Jesus.
Because you said you hit the wall, did you receive any brain injury?
No, I had on good safety equipment. I just was not wearing it properly. I had a good helmet on. Just had my face shield up. It was nighttime. My warm breath in there and the cooler air outside, it fogged my visor, so I just picked it up. I mean, we all do it. We all did it at the time. And it bit me. I didn't have on really the right gloves. Back then, the gloves that were sufficient to be in a car like that were very thick, and it's just hard to see a lot of dexterity with those things. So I chose to wear a thinner glove, not the right choice. And I had better shoes I could have been wearing, even though they were fire retardant. They weren't really the right thing. So all of that was my fault. Would it have made a difference? Yes. Would it have kept me from the burn center? Probably not. My fire was pretty bad. But I think it would have been a patch and go type deal instead of a touch and go, whether I was even going to make it or not. So a lot of that my fault, and I can't blame anybody but myself. But no, I did not receive any. I had some bruising from the belts when I nosed into the wall, but nothing. I mean, I didn't have any broken bones. I climbed out of the car on my own. So, was very fortunate there. But, a lot of my very severe burns were maybe not completely preventable, but definitely would not have been as severe had I just been wearing what I should have been wearing. But it is what it is.
Incredible. You know that lucky
crazy.
isn't the right word. We don't exactly consider ourselves lucky, but if we're to choose a word, you're lucky.
Very.
You survived. You have a son now. Son, right?
Yep. I have a little boy, Ash.
And your wife.
He is extremely sick at the moment. We have, between my wife and I think we've slept about 5 hours the past 3 nights. He's just full ear infection, snotty, can't breathe, so you can't let it flat type deal. But yeah, he's been a blessing for sure. And it hasn't necessarily slowed me down much, and my wife would 100% agree with that statement. But it's definitely, you guys know, it's caused some changes in the lifestyle, right? I was wanting to go grab a beer with the boys at the bar on a Thursday or Friday night, or maybe both. And those things don't happen as much anymore, but that's okay. We all got to grow up at some point, right? I always want to have a little bit of youth in me, but the drag racing keeps me going. It keeps my wife stressed out. We're pretty successful in the small tire no prep world with my little car beer money, and I justify going and doing that because we win a lot with it, and I'm like, look, babe, paying another 5,000 right here, and she's like, okay, well, but what if you don't win? And I'm like, well, we're not going to win them all, but we still do pretty good, and they travel along with me most of the time.
I bet he thinks it's cool. Your son.
Oh yeah.
He's still a little young to
He's
I mean, he knows what sound a race car makes and thinks my race car is cool, but you take him to like an NHRA national event, because now I race NHRA Pro Modified, and like the first 30 minutes are kind of cool, and then he's like, all right, where's my tricycle? Where's the ball pit? Where's my dogs? Like, gonna go play on this hill over there, like he's kind of cooked. So it's
Typical toddler.
yeah.
hard to take day events, especially if we travel way off and we fly, because I don't have a motorhome or something there. But fortunately, with NHRA TV and all the great things that they have available, they can watch from home, and he can play with his tractors and stuff in the living room and just watch when Daddy's on TV. So that's cool. But I've been asked is when you buy a National Junior dragster, and so like I told my wife, if that's what he wants to do, we'll do it. I'm not going to force it on him. I know from personal experience that he'll never be able to afford anything else in his entire life if he gets into drag racing, which kept me in trouble. But it also keeps my wife constantly stressed that I'm going to spend every dime that I've ever made. But it kept me out of drugs and things like that. So I'm going to allow him to do it if he wants to, but not going to force it on him.
There you go. Any inspiring words for young racers?
Yeah, head down, goes to the grindstone, and if you really want it bad enough, you can do it. The unfortunate side of professional motorsports today is that talent just doesn't get you very far. You've got to bring some money with you or have some sponsorship. I was very fortunate getting into the NHRA to have some great folks behind me. And then once you're in, it's really success based, and you can be as successful as you put your mind to. I want to be the best that there is out there, and we've been very, very fortunate. I've won in the 2 years I've been racing professionally. I've won 3 NHRA national events. We won the U.S. Nationals last year, and have done really, really, really well. But it's all it's like anything else, though. People ask me all the time, well, how do you always get all these rides? Why do people ask you to drive their stuff? And it's because it's what I just decided I wanted to do. I want to be somebody that somebody else wants. I want you to drive. I want you two to buy a car and call me to drive it. And I've worked hard to, become somebody, I guess you could say, talented enough to be called like that. And those opportunities are out there, but it's all in what you put into it. I raced a long time. People think that I just kind of walked into that deal, but I raced a long time wishing and hoping, that would be me one day. I mean, I'm 30, I'll be 33 this year. I've been doing it for, golly, makes me
So
feel old.
you've been in this industry your whole life,
Yeah.
right?
Dedicated now most of my life to the greatest motorsport that God's ever put on this earth. And, and it wasn't by any means was it given to me, or did I just get handed these deals. I've driven some really nice cars, and been given really nice equipment and been given great opportunities, but it was still up to me to take full advantage of those and make it worth my time, and I feel like most of the time I've managed to do it somehow. I will admit that I am one that can fall in a bucket of turds and come out smelling like a rose. Um, that's not the case for everybody. I get it.
That's not your case.
So
I've bounced back from some pretty sketchy situations, and we can chalk that up as luck too if you want. Like I've told everybody, I'd rather be lucky than good any day. But um, any encouraging words to work really hard, and if you want to be good at drag racing, you're going to spend every dime you've ever made. So
so
play the lottery, hope you win it.
yeah.
Don't steal from your neighbor, but if they leave $100 on the porch and forget it, well, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Your personal car is what, like an 80s Mustang?
Yeah, it's a late 86 Fox body we call Beer Money.
What kind of power are you pushing out of that?
So that thing's a stock block LS. The engine block itself came out of an Escalade. The rest of it's all after stuff. A single turbo deal on alcohol. It makes 1,600 or something like that, and in the no prep world, which is where I run that thing 95% of the time, it's like street racing, but on the racetrack, a more legal form, obviously, and you can't use all the power you make anyway. So it makes plenty to be very successful there. We actually built that thing on a TV show in 2018 called Horsepower Wars, the $10,000 drag shootout. You can watch that on YouTube.
Very cool.
We won season one, which is how I ended up with the car. Decided that it was a cool enough car that I could kind of build a brand around it, and we did that. It's a pretty popular car, whether I'm with it or not. Beer Money is its own thing, and it's a lot of fun to. That is my that's my stress-free racing there. We've vowed we don't clean it, we don't wipe it down. The only part of that car we clean is the windshield because it is important to see out of it. But
You raced that car on a show on Netflix, right?
Yep. So fastest car, season 2. We were on that TV show or that Netflix original series.
Yeah.
That really kind of went more into my story. It's that show is a little bit of racing and a lot about the drivers, and it kind of went in depth on my story, kind of like we have here. But it's a pretty cool show. We won the first race there, and then I went out to California and spun it out in the final and lost. But yeah, we've raced Beer Money from coast to coast, and it is my stress-free, carefree racing. I can load 2 buddies in the truck with me that don't know a damn thing about that car, and we can go to the racetrack and have a good time and win. So it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. Lyle, we can't thank you enough for being here with us today. You
Sure.
are truly such an inspiration on so many different levels.
Thank you. Yep.
Like,
Anytime I can help you guys with anything, please let me know. We've got some cool stuff coming up at the end of the year. Me and a guy named Nate Prater out of South Carolina do burnouts for kids. I've tried to give back to the burn center that I was in there every year around Christmas, because burns are not necessarily seasonal. You don't never know when they're coming, and there are a large population of kids that spend their Christmas holiday in the burn center down there. And unfortunately for the ones that end up at the JMS Burn Center, more than likely you didn't get burnt in Augusta. That is more of a very concentrated and severe burn center. So a lot of them are airlifted there, are from out of state, definitely out of town. Parents have to quit jobs, maybe relocate, take a long leave, unpaid from work, and at the end of the day, that boils down to maybe they can't afford Christmas.
yeah.
And it's not fair to those kids, and it's not their fault. The parents can't help it. They're doing what they have to do to take care of their own. So I have started a fundraiser and raised money and bought toys for the kids in the burn center every year since I left there. But me and Nate Prater and I teamed up doing burnouts for kids. It's coming up the weekend of the 16th of December. Have a big burnout competition at Carolina Dragway in Aiken, South Carolina. We raised a bunch of money. We raised somewhere around 30 grand last year, I think.
Wow.
Bought a shop slam full of toys, and I don't think Nate gave all the toys to the burn center until like a couple months ago. Our goal is 50 this year. And I don't do it for attention or to get anything out of it. I just, that place saved my life. And
It feels good to give back to the children.
We do the same thing. We started a Caroline to be able to give back monetarily, but every year since John was injured, we also collect toys. It's roughly over 100 toys a year now for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And then we go down, we pass them out with the doctors and nurses, and
it's become our home away from home. And John was treated in Miami, Florida.
Yeah.
So people are also flown out from the islands and everywhere else to Miami.
And while the toys are good, one thing I've learned and that I choose not to ignore is the fact that while we're making the kids Christmas and it takes some financial burden off of those families, the bills at home don't stop coming in.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so last year we had some money left over, and I told Nate, like, look, man, let me go get some gift cards and just give the gift cards to these moms and dads that are just struggling to put food on the table, or maybe they need to make a power, an energy payment, or who knows what they need to pay for it. It's sometimes it just boils down to dollars and cents. And so we've dedicated some of the funds that we raise just strictly, like you said, monetary donations to these families that are just trying to make ends meet while they're trying to piece their life back together there. So I can never repay the burn center fully for what they did for my family and I down there, but it makes me feel like I'm doing something.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
A little bit every year around Christmas, because it's such a tough time for people who are less fortunate than myself and you guys, and when you get thrown into the literally in the fire down there,
the unthinkable. Yes.
It's just not fair, and it feels good to help those people.
Well, thank you for all you do. And like I said, you coming on here is also going to help people, show people that they can still pursue their dreams no matter what happens to them.
I mean, I'm sure you remember, there was a time there where it seemed like the end of the tunnel was never coming and was far, far away. But like I had a fellow burn victim that was a friend of mine prior to me getting burnt. He called me about 2 days after I got home, and he said, dude, I can't make this any better, but all I'm going to tell you is that there's light at the end of this tunnel. And he was right. It was, when you think about a year, like I think about a year from now, I'm like, God dang, that's a long time. And at the time, it felt like a freaking eternity, but what you and I went through, if you look at life on a timeline, it's just a little blip, and then we continue on, hopefully for years and years, and you looking back, it feels like, oh, that was nothing, but at the time it felt like everything, right? Like we had lost it all,
Yeah, it's been 4 years. It feels like yesterday sometimes, and sometimes it feels like forever ago.
Yep.
But you find a new normal. The physical changes are, you don't look like you suffered too awful much as far as, I know you said your beard's a little low on one side, but I fought the longest time, like, oh, I'm never going to look the same. And, I'm never going to look the same. The people are going to look at me funny, and now I look at myself in the mirror and, excuse my French, but who gives a shit? Right.
Yeah. That's exactly it.
No, you can, the fear, and I'll have to write it out to remember, is, forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. And you've got a choice, man. It is what it is. You can't change it. I can't change it. I would,
That's done. It's done. It's
I've really good stuff, and a lot of my success and the opportunities that I've had in drag racing come from this. It was kind of a platform, but I wouldn't do it again. Right?
no. No.
I would go back and just not get burnt, and do whatever I was going to do otherwise. But, it is what it is, man. You can't change it. Nobody can make it any better for you. That can dang sure make it worse. It's going to be what it's going to be, and you just got to pick yourself up and move on. And that's hard for some. I get it. I went through some PTSD, and I have a service dog that's just a good house dog now. And, like, I went through some dark times.
Yeah.
But,
I feel you.
Leaning on those around you was something hard for me to accept and do. I was tough. I was 25. I didn't need anybody's freaking help, but your family and the people around you love you, and sometimes you just need to. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be vulnerable, and just pick up the pieces and move on. Find a new normal. Life's short. Don't spend part of it sulking about some physical change you have to yourself. The people that look at you funny have no idea what you've been through. And would probably, just like I think you guys are, would probably think you're pretty inspirational if they knew your story. Kids are the funniest ones, man. They, especially early on, I would walk by with this face mask on, and they would be like, and their parents, and I'm like, I don't care,
They're innocent.
Yeah, they always ask me because we have a 5-year-old and we got a 13-year-old. And 5-year-old, bring them to school, got all these kids, and they'll always say, "Where's your ear?"
Mm-hmm.
And then I look at them, I say, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "It's gone." I'm like, where'd it go? And then they don't know what to do, and I'm like, "Can I have yours?" No. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, like I almost lost my nose or part of it, and a finger, and they managed to save all that. But I never got. Of course, you probably wouldn't have noticed I did not have eyebrows if I wouldn't have told you.
Yeah, I can't really see from here.
Cares, man. It's just all part of it. And,
you can get them tattooed on.
Yeah, well, that's not happening either. They offered to take implant hairs from the back of my neck and put them up here, and they would look at the way the hairs grew and make them directional and all this stuff, and I'm like, okay. Like, now the downside is you'll have to trim them just like you would your hair, or they'll grow just like your head hair. And I'm like, dude, we could tuck them behind my ears. It would be.
You don't need them. You're fine.
Oh, so they're like, it would probably take $1,000. I'm like, no, okay, they're $10 a piece. And I'm like, nope, not today. I'll just be $10,000 richer and have eyebrows faster when I swim this way, more aerodynamic. But it's been pretty cool, man. It's like I said, I wouldn't do it again, but I've been very blessed and had a lot of support, and have shared my story with folks like you, and hopefully have inspired someone else to not give up on what they've got going on, whether it's severe burn or an injury of some sort that has changed their life. It's just that life's short. It's not over, and pick it up and keep on moving, man.
I will tell you that your story is inspirational, because when I seen you on Netflix, that's how I found you.
Yeah.
I love cars. I've always been a gearhead. So when that show came on Netflix, I clicked it and started watching it. And then it came up to the episodes you were on, and it started to go through your story. And, I'm sitting on the couch, and all of a sudden I'm like, he's a burn survivor. He's out here drag racing. He was in a drag race act. He's still doing. I was like, look at this guy. Very excited. I got super excited about it. Ran and got her. I was like, look at him on Netflix.
That was a couple years ago.
Yeah, I was like, he's still racing. I was like, he's a burn survivor. I was like, how awesome is that?
Yep.
So it is. You are inspiring a lot of people. I mean, it inspired me because I was like, he's doing the exact same thing he loves, even after it put him in the hospital.
Yeah, man. It just, just is what it is, dude. I mean, yeah, I could have, and I got to ask, you think you'll race again? And when I was in the hospital, hell, I didn't know. I'm like, oh, this almost killed me, But, I got out, and honestly, when I went back to the racetrack for the first time and smelt the smells, and heard the cars and was around all my buddies, because when you do it as much as I do and have devoted as much of your life to it, the majority of your friend group revolves around drag racing, and hell, I knew right then. I said, I ain't going nowhere. My dad, because he's funded 99% of my drag racing career. If my dad will still do it and let me do it and pay for it, hell, we're right back up in here, and hell, man, we've kept the gas pedal down, dude. It's, to be able to do it professionally in the NHRA, win national events. And, you really couldn't write it any better, and I've been very blessed and got a lot of good people around me and strong supporters behind me and sponsors going into 24. Things have really worked out, man. Like I said, I've, just like I told you earlier, I fell into a bucket of turds in 2015 and came out smelling like, and
I like that one.
Lester, but it's been a wild ride, man. But it's far from finished. I hope to continue to do it as long as I'm willing and able. And if old Nash D decides that's what he wants to do, I guess I'll be an old man tuning a junior dragster one day. But only time will tell.
Well, we wish you nothing but the best, and we hope that you always remain safe out there. And we can't thank you enough for coming to talk to us.
Sure. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Well, you have two friends down here in South Florida. If you ever make your way down, we'd love to get together.
Well, we'll be at Bradenton, which is, I'm sure you guys may know, up near Tampa. At the end of the weekend after Thanksgiving. I guess that's like the 28th through the 2nd or something like that. We're running an outlaw pro mod race at Bradenton Motorsports Park the end of this month, beginning of December. So if you guys are around, you're more than welcome.
Very cool. Thank you very much.
Are we going to be around?
I have to look at the calendar.
Because if we're around, I'm driving up.
Gainesville, for NHRA, like the 2nd weekend of March or something like that. So a couple of Florida races coming up soon, and then we're gone until the winter again. But we'll be down there soon.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, thank you again for being here. Keep in touch.
Yep.
All right, and keep giving back to your hospital that saved you.
I will. As long as I can afford to do it and got the help to do so. Always.
Awesome. Thank you, Lyle.
Thank you.
Stay well.